Americans accused of espionage. Now Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is actually banning prominent U.S. officials from entering the country because of what Maduro says is their involvement in bombing Iraq, Syria, and Vietnam, and other terrorist actions. Those not being permitted to enter Venezuela include George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, Senator Bob Menendez, and Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart. Senator Bob Menendez responded to the ban with this tweet: "I will continue to speak out against human rights abuses in Venezuela, even if I am banned from traveling there. #sanctioned by Maduro." CNN's Rosa Flores is following the story for us. So, Rosa, the relations between Venezuela and the U.S. have been very tense in the past few weeks. Venezuela even accusing the U.S. of plotting a coup. What's behind all of this?
Oh, you know, Fred, there's just been so much back and forth between these two countries. Most recently, the U.S. imposing visa restrictions on Venezuelan officials for human rights violations, and also U.S. officials calling for the release of political prisoners. Let me just put it this way. These tensions don't appear to be simmering. Surrounded by a sea of revolutionary red in Caracas, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro turned up the heat on an already tense relationship with the United States. Announcing on Saturday the arrest of several Americans for engaging in alleged espionage, including a pilot of Latin American origin flying an American plane and carrying what he called all kinds of documents. 4 missionaries from North Dakota were detained in Venezuela for 2 days and released Saturday, according to U.S. officials. It's unclear if these are the Americans President Maduro was referring to. Government supporters cheered when the Venezuelan president went on to list sanctions on the U.S., including visa requirements for Americans, a downsized U.S. embassy in Caracas, and a travel ban on some American officials, including George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, Bob Menendez, and Marco Rubio, calling them terrorists, in part for what he says are human rights violations by America in Iraq, Syria, and Vietnam. Florida Representative Mario Diaz-Balart, one of many voices firing back on Twitter, saying, "I've always wanted to travel to a corrupt country that is not a free democracy, and now Castro's lapdog won't let me." All this coming weeks after President Maduro accused the U.S. of plotting to overthrow his government, a month after the U.S. imposed visa restrictions on Venezuelan government officials over human rights, and years of an outspoken opposition that in the last 13 months has turned into deadly protests, leaving more than 40 dead on both sides. As President Maduro begins closing the doors on the U.S., Venezuela struggles in its house divided. Now, U.S. officials have not responded yet to this new wave of U.S. sanctions against the U.S. by the Venezuelan government, but they did respond to the most recent accusations by that government against U.S. officials, saying that the U.S. was trying to topple the Venezuelan government. The U.S. State Department saying that those allegations were baseless and false. Fred.
All right, Rosa Flores.